This module is called Negotiate from a Low Power Position. Researchers recently looked at wars fought over the last 200 years between very large countries and very small countries. On average, the larger country was 10 times larger in both population and army strength. What percentage of those wars do you think the larger country won? 71.5% of the time, the larger country won. This also means that just under a third of the time, a grossly underpowered army found a way to win. How could this be? To answer this question, the researchers looked at the data in a different way. They investigated what happens when the weak side refused to fight the way the more powerful side wanted to fight. In other words, when the weaker side used counterintuitive strategies. Researchers found that their winning percentage more than doubled to 63.6%. Tap next to explore how this applies to effectively negotiating in today's B2B selling environment. In today's modern B2B buying environment, who do you think has more power, the buyer or the seller? That's right. Buyers used to believe that sellers had more power because you, as a salesperson, had information your customer didn't, and you could better control the flow of information. Plus, you had the advantage of negotiating similar deals over and over, all of which gave you a chance to balance power in a negotiation. However, a few years ago, this balance tipped. A study by Corporate Visions and ES Research showed that with the increased availability of information and competition, buyers were now confident they had the power and that sellers have little power when negotiating. Your customer's power largely comes from their having so many alternatives. Their first and most obvious alternative is to stay with their status quo. Additionally, all of the alternatives that your competitors offer are available. In contrast, for you, as a sales professional, what are your alternatives? No deal? Agreeing to bad deal? Lowering your price? Since none of those are attractive alternatives, your best approach is to use an unconventional strategy of challenging their certainty. This creates a low power advantage for you. The more certain customers are about their alternatives, the more powerful they feel. Before you can challenge their certainty, you need to understand their current situation. One of the easiest ways to identify their alternatives is to ask. For example, if you don't do business with us, what will you do? Or, what other alternatives are you considering? You may feel concerned that these questions could add tension to your conversation, but tension is a normal part of any negotiation. Throughout this module, you'll learn how to use tension productively in your conversations. Given that you're in the low power position and your customer is in the high power position, what should you do? Most people's instincts tell them that they should try to regain the high power position. In fact, many sales training courses teach you to do just that. They teach you tactics to try and regain the high power position. However, research specifically proves that when you try to match the power level of your customer, you get worse outcomes, not better, for both you and the customer. In these situations, less value is created for either side, and therefore there's less value to claim. You don't have to try to take back control and even out the situation to negotiate a successful outcome. To be sure, this doesn't mean that you have to settle for less or for fewer options. Trying to reduce their power doesn't work any better. This will most likely end in no deal. The research shows that when you work within the high power, low power dynamic that already exists and use unconventional, creative, or counterintuitive strategies, you create better outcomes for both you and your customer. Research shows that negotiating from a low power position can be advantageous, as long as you accept your low power position. It forces you to focus on building bigger joint opportunities, which creates more value for both sides. When you follow the unconventional, creative, and counterintuitive approaches in this module, you'll claim more value for yourself. The high-power position buyer negotiates with a zero-sum mindset. They're not thinking about creating more value. That's your opportunity. Now, it's time for you to put identifying buyer alternatives into practice. Identify a key customer or deal, one that you're pushing to close this quarter, and enter it. Next, list their top 3 alternatives. What will they do if they don't do business with you? As you've learned, in today's B2B complex selling environment, buyers are in the high power position. And when you try to reclaim the high power position, you're more likely to end up with no deal. Instead, use unconventional, creative, and counterintuitive strategies to optimize your low power advantage.